Welcome to the Online Trainer Show, where we help fitness and nutrition pros take better care of their clients and build profitable businesses. I'm Jonathan Goodman, and as always, I'm joined by Amber Reynolds. We're happy you're here. Let's start the show.
Were you just voguing during that?
Yes, because my name was called.
I wasn't even paying attention. I was looking away while that intro was going on, and all of a sudden I just see you doing the voguing thing.
I'm always doing really weird stuff when no one's looking. That's kind of my thing.
So I'll tell you a story. So I was we were out in All-Inclusive, and this was back when I was single, and there were a few winters where my buddies and I would just go with like 4 guy friends, and we go to an all-inclusive over Christmas, and we try to pick up girls and like just have fun. And there was one girl who I met who I really, really liked, and it was going well. This is rare for me. This does not happen often. So I was very excited. And all of a sudden, we're dancing at like the discotheque or whatever, right? And all of a sudden, the song comes on, and she starts dancing, and she starts voguing.
Oh,
and
my.
I just looked, and I was just like, oh, this is not going to work out at all.
That was a degree of too weird for you.
I didn't know that was something that like people do seriously.
Oh, are you sure she wasn't just being silly?
No,
or just some of us are awkward because that's just how we do things. We were extra silly to handle the awkward.
I mean, maybe, but I like extra silly. Oh, I have a joke for you.
Yay.
What did the duck say when it got to the Grand Canyon?
Oh, God. Quack, quack, quack. I don't know.
Oh, my. That's a big quack.
I'm a little angry at that joke.
Okay. How to convince clients online training is as effective as in-person training. Basically, what are we talking about here? What are we getting at in this episode?
Yeah, so I think we get a lot of questions from coaches. Like, I don't think they're fully convinced necessarily that online training is as effective or more effective. So they have trouble communicating that to clients because clients are like, well, I need someone there for it to work, right?
Right. So there's 2 things here. So the first part of this question that I think we need to answer is, how can you as the coach be convinced that this is something that you want to do or that you think is a good thing to do? So I want to talk to you a little bit about that first, and then I want to talk about the issue of, I won't say convincing, coercing your client, because basically what I'm going to say to you is you can't convince them of anything. It's got to be their decision. I mean, that's persuasion 101. The minute that you try to convince somebody of anything, the minute that you try to push your belief system on somebody else, they retract and they go deeper into what they already believe as a protective mechanism, right? We all want autonomy over our own thoughts. And so I'm going to talk to you about this idea of like, how do we lead them to the answer that we think is the right answer for them, if it is the right answer for them. I'm going to talk about that afterwards, but Amber, let's talk first about this issue of trainers not quite believing in online training first. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think especially with COVID, right? So for some coaches, switching to online training was kind of a forced move. And so they just didn't really understand what online training is. And I think there's a gap between understanding what makes an effective coach. And it's not someone who stands there and counts reps. So what actually makes an effective coach?
None of us can count anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Never trust a coach who can count, because if they're paying that close attention to the numbers, then they're not paying close enough attention to other things. It's always
ask the coach to count and to add. And if the coach knows how to add 45 plus 45 plus 45 plus 45, they're a good coach. If they know how to add anything else, they're a terrible coach.
100%.
I actually wanted to come out at one point with a whole range of like prank personal trainer items. And some of them were around counting and some of them were around like clocks. So I just think it'd be really funny if you just have like a clock on the wall with a little second hand that always points towards the client doing planks or burpees or whatever it is. And then it's attached, but the client doesn't know this, to a little button on your watch. And every time you hit the button on your watch, it makes the clock go backwards. So the second you just tell somebody, it's like, oh, yeah, no, 30 seconds, right until it gets to that 6. And just as it's approaching that, you just press it, and it's just go the other way.
Brilliant. There's a guy, I don't remember his name, but his company is based around creating unnecessary products.
Yeah, perfect.
And that's all he does. I will send him a message.
It's amazing. Okay, so a lot of people were kind of forced to do something online but didn't quite believe in it because of COVID, as a result of COVID. Right. Anything else?
I think because they haven't done it, they haven't seen it work, it's just not really understanding that, yes, it actually is effective in helping other people. And so it's not understanding what it is exactly and trusting that their skills beyond needing to physically be there are good enough to get results.
Isn't that such a salient point, what you said right at the beginning? We don't see anybody else doing it. You go into a gym, you see trainers work, right? You kind of get it. It kind of makes sense because you see it. Online training, we don't see anybody train online. I mean, you might have hired an online trainer before, but even if you have, your experience in it is very, very low compared to what your experience would be. I mean, most of us are kind of gym rats or have been at some point. So we've seen a lot of trainers work. We've seen a lot of people work out. Even if you've hired online trainers, always, you've maybe had, 4, 5 online trainers at the very, very high end. You really have not witnessed this happen a lot. Contrast that with a lot of conflicting information out in the market of how to do a good job. And trying to convince you that, one way, I mean, this is marketing 101. Like, the way to sell something is to convince people that whatever they've been doing previously is crap, and the next thing is the biggest thing ever and the most important thing ever, and it's going to make all their dreams come true. And so, it's innovation over improvement. I talk about this in the Highly Wealthy Online Trainer book series. And so the idea there is like, oh man, how do I do this thing? I don't really get it. Like, what does it mean? Does it mean that I'm just on camera talking to somebody? Does it mean that I'm doing the workout with you, but at my place and then you're at your place? Does it mean that I'm sending you a program and then monitoring it somehow? Well, like, how does that work? Like, how do I communicate with you? How do I send you the program? How do I cue? Like, there's so much to it. For example, like, even just when it comes down to client care, effective client care techniques for the modern trainer are completely different than what you do in a gym. I mean, you have to understand that if you're going to be on camera, you got to show up about 25% more energetic than you are normally, because you always look tired on camera if you don't. And you need to over cue. So you actually need to probably cue 3 to 5 times more than you would in person. You basically need to just talk all the time as somebody's working out remotely. Nobody knows these things, right? I mean, we know these things because we've helped tens of thousands of people do it, but like, most people don't know these things. And so as an online trainer, I think the most important thing is to understand, first of all, that you are going to be starting something that's going to be new for you, right? Which means that there's going to be a learning curve, which means it's going to be a bit of a messy beginning and maybe even a messy middle as you start to figure out how to make this yours. One of the beautiful things about online fitness is you can make it yours. That's beautiful. That's really, really cool. But it takes some time to make it yours. It takes some expertise to make it yours, right? So you start with best practices and then you start to kind of mold them. And understand that it doesn't have to be 100% online. We're going to keep hammering in this point over and over and over and over and over again. It doesn't have to be, you never have to train people far away from you, right? If you don't want to. And it never has to be 100% online. All that you need to do in order to exist in this industry moving forward is you need to understand how to leverage new technology and fit it in where it needs to fit in. I like the example of, back in the day, people who knew how to read and write had more opportunities than people who didn't, right? Reading and writing was the new technology. Well, now, people who understand that they have to adopt technology, we get a lot of people, Amber, who say, oh, I hate technology. Oh, I don't like, I don't like technology. I'm not good at technology or whatever it is. It's like, Well, there was probably a lot, I mean, I don't know, I wasn't alive then, but there was probably a lot of people who were like, oh, I don't like reading and writing, it's not for me. It's like, that's totally cool, but there is going to be disproportionate amounts of opportunity for the people who read and wrote, right? It doesn't mean that you can't ever make a go of it, but like, the people who couldn't read and write at a certain point were the laborers. I mean, that's just how it was, right? And so the people who don't adopt the obvious technology to exist in the modern world and are always looking and saying, where is this going? How can I acquire the skills to be able to navigate that and make it mine? Right? They're going to have disproportionately more opportunities. That's just kind of what it comes down to.
I want to make a really quick point is that no duh, you're not good at it yet. You haven't had to do it. Right. And so like nobody starts off as a good personal trainer. Like if you started training years ago and you don't think you're not a little bit embarrassed about how you were as a trainer back then there's something wrong. So in transitioning to adding more technology, you're not going to be good at it at first. You will if you put in the effort to try. So don't limit yourself by already saying, oh, I suck at technology or I'm not good at this. Like you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage. So reframe that. You can figure it out. You will figure it out. You just may need a little extra time.
And part of the process is figuring out, and that's cool. Like, that's fun. And by the way, you'll never feel like you have figured it out.
No. No, I just told the student that yesterday. He's like, oh, I want to talk to someone that knows what they're doing. I'm like, oh, well, I mean, I've been doing this for
I don't know
5 years. I've just been winging it longer. That's all.
Can I talk to Jon at least? I mean, he wrote the textbook on online training. Like he's got to know what he's doing. He actually wrote the only textbook that exists in online training. No, I know him pretty good. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like, it's just.
I mean, we all have our areas of expertise, and we all work together, and that's why.
Well, I mean, people are different at different stages of their journeys, and I think that's what it comes down to. In whatever stage you're at, there are opportunities at that stage, and it's a matter of taking stock of where you're at. I mean, there are tremendous opportunities for people who are new trainers. In fact, newness is one of the biggest sales and marketing advantages you could ever have if you know how to leverage it. And so there's a lot of opportunity in new. A lot of people want to support somebody new in something. A lot of people want to support the underdog, want to be a part of somebody's journey. And as long as you know how to communicate and frame that, there's actually a lot of opportunities. Let's talk about the second bit of this, which is how to convince clients that online training is as effective as in-person training. And the answer here, I mean, is reasonably simple. You can't convince them of anything. You've got to lead them to the answer. Effective selling always, always, always begins with curiosity. And I think that's probably the most important point we're going to hit on here in this episode is effective selling begins with curiosity. You can't push onto people what you believe because you don't know what they believe yet or what's important to them. And as a result, fortunately, almost everybody you're going to sell to has had some experience in the health and fitness industry before. Maybe they've paid for it. Maybe they've struggled with it, something for free. It doesn't matter. But what you need to know before you even speak to them, not before you speak to them, but before you attempt to sell them or convince them or coerce them or persuade them into anything, is what happened before? Talk to me. Did you do any programs before? Have you ever had a trainer? What were your workouts like before? Cool. What did you love about it? What was bad about it? What did you wish to be different? And then, what were you unsatisfied with in the past? And it's probably going to be something that your service can solve. Right? Cost, scheduling, location, instructor didn't care about me, whatever. Because oftentimes, even if somebody gets results, they're not happy with the service if they don't feel like they were looked after. And so it's probably going to be something like that once you really diagnose it. And then you could just say to them, like straight up, and I just love this question, like, why are we talking right now?
Yes.
I love that question because I want to reframe sales. Sales isn't selling. It's not tricking anybody to buy. Sales is consultative.
It's your first coaching opportunity. Like, this is your first coaching opportunity.
Nice.
So, like, as soon as, for me, because I used to be the same way, like, sales freaks me out. But when I put into the mindset that I'm going in to coach, I'm really good at that. So if I go in and I'm curious and I ask questions, it's like trying to write a program for someone without knowing their medical history and, their thoughts and limiting beliefs. Like, you can't build a program for them without knowing that stuff. And doing this quote unquote sales call is the same thing. If you're not asking the questions that you mentioned, Jon, there's no way you can prescribe a coaching package because you don't have enough data. So this is your very first opportunity to coach them. And sometimes it makes sense to work with us and sometimes it doesn't.
But the reality of it is that person has taken time out of their day to talk to you for some reason.
Yep.
And you got to really know what that is. And this is why, you should close most sales. Simply by just being curious. Why are we here? Why are we talking? How can I help you? Like, look, I don't want to spend time telling you about all the things that I can do. I'm confident in my ability to elicit change for the right type of person, but I got to know, what happened with you before that didn't work so well, that you're still struggling with this. Because I don't want to repeat those mistakes. I only want to, I want to start off with what works. That's how it's not online training is more effective than in person. It's that a lot of the times when people have struggled previously, it's been with in-person endeavors, whether it's one-on-one training or something. And online training simply is better at a lot of the reasons why people had a bad experience previously. Mm-hmm. That's kind of it.
Yep. It's hard for us to say it's more, quote unquote, more effective or potentially as effective because of X, Y, and Z reason, because it's going to be different for every person that you talk to. So those questions that you mentioned, I think if we incorporate those, make a massive difference.
Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Online Trainer Show. I'm Jonathan Goodman again, coming at you with Amber Reynolds.
Hey.
It was voguing once more. We'd love it if you joined us with the Online Trainer Academy. If you are thinking about it, feel free to reach out, have a chat with us, amber@ptdc.com or support@theptdc.com. And we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.